welcome everyone.
Yes, we will open our meeting now with the approval of minutes for June 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of request for appropriation transfer of funds,
Questions or comments in regards to item 2? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of approving payment of the regular schedule of accounts for the various funds, moral obligations, and the then and now certificates in the total amount of $153,362.94.
Questions or comments in regards to item 3? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of request for appropriation of funds,
Questions or comments in regards to item 4? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of accepting an amended certificate from the Budget Commission,
Questions or comments in regards to item 5? Hearing none.
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of communication from Portsmouth Metropolitan Housing Authority regarding board reappointment,
Questions or comments in regards to item 6? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of resolution establishing a fund for Scioto County COVID-19 response regarding the Scioto County Sheriff's Department,
Questions or comments in regards to item 7? Hearing none.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
In the matter of request for fund transfers,
Questions or comments in regards to item 8? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye. Ms. Coleman, do you have anything in addition today?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Crabtree.
No, sir.
Gentlemen of the press.
Yeah, item number 7.
Yes.
Regarding funding that's coming in, the sheriff's office COVID response.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any mandates on specific expenditures for this money?
The only stipulation is it is to support a broad range of activities, but they have to be activities to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus. So those could be safety related, PPE, things like that, and I know that they've used quite a bit. So
Are local governments eligible for what they're calling payroll loans or funding from the federal government? I know that some schools have been and different things, and private businesses. To your understanding,
I have not seen any payroll directly, but I'm starting to see some grants that are coming out that do actually cover payroll. We were talking about it the other day. It was kind of surprising. There was some CDBG grant opportunities coming out, and one of the stipulations in there, and this is all new as part of the COVID response from Congress, that it actually covers payroll, which really surprised us. That is not typically something that a community development block grant would cover. So they've changed the rules on that.
the CDBG monies, that's in addition to what the county's already received?
Yeah, it is. Matter of fact, we just got the information on it the other day, and I'm still pouring through the webinar, and then we've got to reach out to partners here in the community to see who really could utilize that grant. This is all new to us. So.
But would the county be able to use that money if you apply for it, if that application is successful?
My understanding is it is open to local governments to apply for as well. Yes.
Thank you.
They're really focusing, what I see on that is they're really focusing on the homeless population. They're focusing on seniors and protecting our seniors. And, there's a myriad, but a lot of it's geared toward helping populations, disadvantaged populations, trying to figure out a way to help those. And they're really trying to steer those monies toward that, to try to protect those that are most vulnerable.
Thank you very much.
All right. Mhm. Yes. Brett, you got anything? All right. Anything?
When Sam's here, he always gets mine.
Yes, and you mentioned Sam, and that reminds me of someone else today, and it's Roger Gray. And I want to say, send our condolences out to the Gray family. I know several of them, and Roger was such a great guy. He really was. Always treated you with respect. At least he did me every time I saw him. He was always very kind, and we miss him today, and our condolences go out to his family. All right. Anything else?
Item 6.
Item 6, yes.
Who's inquiring?
Who's inquiring?
Mark Ritter.
Okay, Mark Craycraft, Scioto County Daily News. PMHA Board reappointment of Christine Eaton for another 5-year term. Christine had served admirably prior to and done a wonderful job, and highly recommended for reappointment, and we did that. Anything else?
That's everything on the agenda.
Okay.
I have one also, Jim.
Yes, sir.
A couple of weeks ago, Pure Cycle bond announcement.
Uh-huh.
Issuance was coming through. Was it closed at the end of June or end of July?
You know what? I'm glad you asked that, because I know there was a date that was given in this room by Mr. Horton. I actually talked to the CEO of Pure Cycle just last week, and Mike Otworth. We had a good conversation. Things are moving forward. He had mentioned a date later in July, so I'm not exactly sure where the confusion was, but that's what they're looking at right now.
Has there been any development on plans or any progression on anything since over the last couple of weeks?
I don't know if there's been any changes. I think the job projections are the same, which I think I shared what that was. I don't think there's any changes, but I'll say publicly, and I mentioned it to him while I was on the phone. Anything that InVenture or Pure Cycle is looking to do in the future, we want them to seriously look at Scioto County or the Haverhill region as a whole for placement of that. Any more technologies that they'd be interested in doing. So we talked about that. We talked about the work that's being done on the infrastructure down there. He was very pleased to hear that we're moving forward with that on the sewer, what we're doing down there with Jobs Ohio and others, talking about how we can get all of that done for not just for Pure Cycle, but for the entire area for future development of other companies. We talked about that. He was very pleased to hear that. And they are working on other technologies. They are working on other things that they've actually, it's been public about some of the technologies that they're looking at. But they've brought on a lot of partners. They're getting ready to announce a major partner that they've signed with. So I'm not going to do that for them. That's up to them to do. But it sounds really exciting about what they're working on, and we're almost there. We're almost there. So we'll see. As a matter of fact, there was I saw job postings for engineer techs, for instrument techs or something like that. I actually shared it on I think it was on my personal Facebook for those jobs. So yeah, they're starting to ramp up. You can tell.
One last question off the agenda. I know last year the west side was kind of a focus as far as a lot of infrastructure projects go, and different things, lane projects and everything as well. Are those completed on time? Has COVID kind of slowed those down, or are we, as a county, on track to complete that work on the west side?
I have not gotten an update from Darren on that. I know that COVID did definitely slow them down. They just, I think, was it 2 weeks ago, was their first day back in the
yes,
office, out at the engineer's office. They've been working from home, but it's not the same. It's slowed everything down. I will tell you that I think the OPWC funding is is probably greatly at risk at this point because of state cuts. You know, we had actually talked about it in this meeting. We had approved several resolutions for the application of and everything else, and I'm afraid that a lot of the resolutions that we did are going to be for naught because I think a lot of the OPWC, or the High Public Works money, is going to be cut. So you might want to talk to the engineer about that, get more details. At least that was the information that we were receiving. They were still funding what was promised from last year, but that it looks like many of the plans that we had, or actually the county engineer had, may be at risk. So unfortunately, that's seems to be the route that the state's taking right now. They're cutting infrastructure. If you look, they've cut bridges. They're cutting children's services. They're cutting job and family services. It's everywhere. Yeah, education. I'm concerned greatly about that. We talked about this the other day as a board, is that where we're seeing the cuts is with our children, our education, they're cutting the most vulnerable. And it's really, I realize, we understand budgets, we get that, but you would think that there would be other areas that they could cut to find this money. They've cut local government funds. They've cut deep everywhere. So this is why we prepare. This is why the county saves money and puts it back and doesn't spend frivolously because of things like this. And Scioto County is fine. We continue to pinch our pennies, and we'll continue to do the right thing, and we'll continue to stay healthy as long as possible.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Okay.
Mark Craycraft, please explain the changes in children's services and how those decisions were made.
Need to be more detailed about changes at children's services.
Sam Hackley, Saturday Daily News.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for residents considering traveling to destinations like Myrtle Beach? Should they reconsider their travel plans in the wake of the COVID spike in the county main to travel?
I think people need to use common sense. Of course, our health commissioner is advising against that. What my understanding is that several people that contracted coronavirus while traveling to beaches, I've heard Myrtle Beach, I've heard Daytona Beach, did not use precautions. Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't know what all the details were. I think people need to be very cautious. If they do travel to those locations, they need to be careful. They need to avoid being in close contact with other people that they don't know. There are criteria, there's distancing, there's things that they can do to stay safe. And my opinion is use common sense. Anything, you guys have anything?
Well, I don't go to the beaches myself. I've been there before. I'm not a beach person.
Yeah.
I've been there. I have a home down there. And I was there recently, and I can assure you, it's not in Myrtle Beach, but the businesses and the people there actually were going by the guidelines, I think, more than here.
Yeah.
Everywhere you went, people were social distancing, wearing their masks, and then I come back here and I see multiple people not following the same guidelines. So I think Brian is correct. You have to use good common sense. You have to wash your hands frequently. Don't touch your face or your mouth, and stay away. Stay home if you're sick. Stay away from people that are sick. But I think it's all good common sense that we have to use.
What we don't know is what exactly these people did. I mean, did they go to a nightclub? Were they dancing? Were they hanging out with other people? Were they, who knows? I mean, we don't know these things. So Were they in close contact with with other people for an extended period of time? We're hearing there's more and more coming out about the importance of distancing and not being exposed for a long period of time to someone with coronavirus. There's a lot of evidence coming out as far as, just keep your distance. And especially if you're going into a place where you don't know the other people, you're not around them, you haven't been quarantined with them, you don't live in the home with them. Use common sense. The last thing you want to do is go up to somebody and get this far away from their face. That's the last thing you want to do. I mean, you can communicate from a distance. It's just good common sense. And God gave us that, most of us, I think, that we have that. And if something don't seem right, don't do it. Don't do it. I think self-preservation is a very powerful motivation in most people's lives, that they know to be cautious and use some, just understand that not everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Not everybody is following all the precautions. So do it for them. You're keeping your distance, and they need to understand that. And from what I can tell, most people respect that. So, okay.
It's my understanding that the party that went down there, that more than half of them had the test and do not have it. A wife and her husband of that party went. The husband tested, the wife did not. So who's to say where they picked this up? I just find it hard to believe that you can identify that they picked it up right there on their trip. It's very possible, because they say it is a hot spot. But if they were traveling by car, I'm sure they stopped for gas. I'm sure they stopped for food. Who knows if they got it from here before they left? The thing is, it's everywhere. Not just at beaches, not just, it's everywhere. So we just have to take precautions. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, and wash your hands. I mean, that's something that Dr. Martin's been saying all along. Wash your hands, use good hygiene, and keep your distance.
Another question, maybe you know the answer to this. So this party came back. The wife is not affected. She's not tested. She's not sick. But she has to be quarantined for the same amount of time. She's can't go to work or anything like that. I understand it because she's living with
direct contact, yes.
And could, but maybe one day we can have Dr. Martin explain that a little bit more thoroughly.
Right.
The quarantine process.
I think that's important because there's some question about contacts of contacts. Someone who was near a person but isn't living with them, doesn't, but they weren't within 6 feet. Does that person have to quarantine? My understanding is no. That the percentages are very low. The chance is very, very low of contamination. But I can talk to Dr. Martin and see about him coming over and discussing that. It's been a while since we've had him, so we'll see about him coming over. What else you got?
Thank you.
Rebecca Flagg. Hello, I live in Tennessee, and I'm interested in some information about the old Pepsi Coke plant on Scioto Trail. I'm wanting to bring my business to Ohio.
Okay. That plant was purchased and is being remodeled for a manufacturing facility. But let me add, it's not the only building that's available. If she would like, she needs to call our office here, and we can put her in contact with the Economic Development Director, who'd be more than happy to meet with her.
Misty Cook Spicer, do you know how the pop-up COVID testing went yesterday?
No, I have not heard. Has anybody heard? I know the lines were long. I heard that. That's all I heard.
That's everything so far.
Okay, all right. Any further questions?
No, sir.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Well, so moved.
All right.
A second.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.